Hello and welcome to an India Today special broadcast on day 39 of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. I'm Gaurav Sawant. This special broadcast comes to you from Kiev. The situation in Ukraine, especially in the eastern part, is taking a turn from the bad to the worst. But the real horrors of this war are only now emerging from the outskirts of Kiev, from places like Irpin and Bucha. Over the course of the next half hour, India Today's biggest team of reporters on ground here in Ukraine will get you the latest.
Retreating Russians, Bucha. Bodies piled up on the streets. Ruthless Russian act horrifies the world. India Today captures massacre horror.
There are shrapnel marks all over, and the shrapnel has also pierced the windscreen and killed those inside. A family, you can see bodies still inside this car.
Gaurav and Lalit deep inside war zone Bucha. World exclusive Bucha ground report.
The real horrors of war are only now emerging in Irpin and in Bucha. I traveled to Irpin and Bucha, and it's here that the security forces and the army that now are consolidating their presence. The Ukrainian armed forces are now moving in deeper. But the manner in which civilians were targeted in the past 40 days, civilians caught in the crossfire between Russia and Ukraine. The government in Ukraine says that the Russian army targeted innocent civilians in this war. They've released images of people whose hands were tied. They were tortured. In some instances, according to the Ukrainian government, raped and killed. When I spoke to locals in Bucha, in Irpin, some of these tales of horror emerged. We bring you this India Today special ground report from Bucha. We are currently inside Bucha, and the destruction that you see all around during the Russian occupation of this place is visible for all. Burnt vehicles, burnt malls, burnt homes, damaged and devastated in the fire and the artillery shelling, the rocket fire, the missile fire, and the destruction that's been caused to people and their homes. The Ukraine army is now coming into this area along with medical services and emergency services. They've recovered some bodies, and while the forensics and the post-mortem teams will carry out their job, but they've taken images. Several of these bodies, according to the Ukraine army, have their hands tied behind them, and they've been shot dead in cold blood in custody. Ukraine government says that this is a war crime and that they will hold Russia accountable for this, and several such bodies are littered on the streets of Bucha as we travel. India Today's team has traveled inside Bucha to get you an assessment of the ground situation nearing day 40 of this battle between Russia and Ukraine. While the Russian forces have retreated from Irpin and Bucha, it's only now that the army, the police, the medical services, the security services, they are entering this area, and this is completely abandoned. Not a soul in sight in this part of Bucha where we are right now. With us is Sasha, and Sasha is a resident of Bucha. Sasha, what happened here?
Так, я весь цей час, поки була війна, я проживала саме в Бучі. У нас є дачний райончик. Я проживала там, де якраз недалеко проходили ці воєнні дії, коли стріляли, і наші, і їхні. Там дуже багато домівок розгромило, дуже багато. І навіть деякі дома згоріли. Це я проживаю там недалеко від Гостомеля. Гостомель Взагалі, кажуть, там дуже багато будинків постраждало, дуже багато. Аеропорт також. Нашу мрію вони розгромили. Наша мрія – це наш самоліт, наше достояння українське. Я б сюди прийшла, мені треба просто зв'язь, інтернет. Тут більш ніде нічого не робить, тільки на цьому місці. Приходиться приходити сюди, дивитися,
The images here are horrifying. This is a residential block and this has been shelled completely. Virtually every house shattered. People forced to live outside. Right now the temperature here is -2. It's snowing. It was raining a short while back. But people have nowhere to go. There is no electricity. There is no water. There is no gas. In fact, if you just come around, a few families that remain here, they're cooking their food out in the open, and we'll show you how they're surviving in this extreme cold. It's only now that the agencies have reached here, but this family, as you can see, they've got their pots outside and they're cooking a meal for them outside in the open, and yet the lady has a smile on her face in these difficult circumstances. How are you? Are you okay?
Ні, how are you? Ви мене спрашуєте, як звати, правильно я розумію? Люба. А ви мене зрозумієте, мою українську?
What are you making? What are you eating? So there's just some chicken and water. They're boiling it together. That's their only meal because none of these houses have any power, nowhere to cook inside, no gas, and this cold. And what is actually heartbreaking in these images, we'll just walk. They live here, they eat here, and they've had nowhere else to go. So bad is the situation that Tatya has just buried her child who was killed in shelling right here. And she broke down as she explained that to me, that the child must be very cold inside. So she made a cup of tea and she's put tea and her child's favorite chocolates on that grave that has been just dug here. And there are other graves that have been dug in this area after the shelling in Bucha. The situation here, extremely heartbreaking. The manner in which these people have survived close to 40 days of an intense Russian attack and Ukraine armies fight back in this area. The burnt infantry combat vehicle, the burnt tanks and cars on this road and several roads around give you an idea of the kind of battles that have been fought in Bucha in the past 40 days. The Russian soldiers may have retreated, but for every inch of territory, there was a fierce battle with thousands of civilians, unfortunately, trapped in the crossfire. Now, this burnt BMP, burnt infantry combat vehicle here, the burnt Lexus there, the burnt Mercedes behind that show how pitched battles were fought inside the streets of Bucha. Burnt homes, an indication that civilians were caught in this deadly crossfire that took place in this area. Svetlana, what happened here? What happened in Bucha?
Пока все страшно. Пока
Стараемся как-то ожить от того, что здесь происходило. Происходило очень страшное, очень страшное. Даже словами это сложно очень описать. Очень страшно все было. Вы видите, там дома, все разрушено. Пожилым домам полностью гатили и градами, и какими-то этими кассетными бомбами. И, в общем, дом у нас разрушен. Полностью все окна, снаряд прилетел в крышу. Вот. Все очень страшно. У соседей тоже в дом попал снаряд. Вот. Поэтому мы надеемся, мы верим, что наши збройні сили нас захистять. Вот. Так що, как-то так. Спасибо вам.
On the outskirts of Kyiv, en route Bucha, several burnt tanks and armored personal carriers show and indicate the kind of battles that have taken place in this area. Not one, not two, but multiple burnt tanks and APCs in this area. A fierce fight has taken place. The turret completely blown off the tank, the wheels completely destroyed. And this is happening not just in one area, but multiple such locations. If you come close, we'll show you. There's another tank here that lies destroyed. There are other tanks that have been completely destroyed in the attacks that have taken place on the outskirts of Bucha. There are several unexploded shells still lying in this area, and this is the first time as we report this that several agencies are on their way. Just look around. Government agencies are now on their way to Bucha to provide relief and help to those impacted by these battles. Whether it's the army that was holding ground here or emergency services who are now making their way in an attempt to bring back those who were trapped in the past 40 days of these fierce tank battles that took place in and around Irpin and Bucha on the outskirts of Kyiv in Ukraine. So after more than a month of intense shelling, Galina from Bucha is finally leaving on her cycle. How did you survive for 1 month, Galina?
I will live in a deep... А можно сказать по-русски bunker? Bunker, yes, we live in a deep bunker, and 3 weeks we sleep like gypsy.
Like gypsy, did you have food? Did you have water?
A little bit, but we survive. It's okay. Russian people not. I'm sorry.
I can understand. She is nervous. I mean, imagine more than 3 weeks living in a bunker. Now she's leaving on a cycle.
It's my cycle.
It's your cycle, and with very bare.
It's my stuff because I leave this apartment and I go now in my house.
So, how scared were you? What was it like when there was like boom, boom, shelling?
One month, boom, boom, near my house, 3 meters.
Emergency vehicles, they're leaving in a rush, and soldiers are leaving this place. So you can imagine what life is like. It's snowing. It's very cold.
Yes. Too much tank go. BMP, I don't know.
Yes.
Very big.
Yeah. So these were the kind of battles that were fought here. You stay safe, Galina from Bucha. The stench of rotting flesh, burnt bodies. This car, for example, as you can make out, an explosion took place very close by. There are shrapnel marks all over, and the shrapnel has also pierced the windscreen and killed those inside. A family, you can see bodies still inside this car after so many days, devastated, lying on the road. A man, a woman, a child, and there are bodies that are also lying on the roadside, those who were killed in the shelling in this area. And this place in Bucha perhaps witnessed very bad, very intense fighting and shelling from both sides. Russia trying to move towards Kiev, the Ukrainian army trying to stall the advance, and the battlefield was here in Irpin and in Bucha. But today, finally, when agencies have come here after the Russians retreated towards Belarus and the Ukrainian forces have taken control of this area, it's only now that medical services are arriving here to retrieve these bodies, and there are a number of them lying on the roadside, in front of buildings, in ditches. The Ukrainian army says some of them have their hands tied behind them and they were killed in cold blood. Some others killed in shelling. With cameraman Lalit Mohan Joshi in Bucha, Ukraine, Gaurav Sawant for India. In Irpin, in Bucha, in Kyiv and several other parts of Ukraine, people are now returning to their devastated homes. Their homes were shelled, they were damaged in many instances, buildings caught fire, but people are slowly returning home to once again take control of their lives. The government in Ukraine has said that people need to fill up a form, take pictures of the damage, submit it to the government, and the government will pay for damages and help them rebuild their homes and their lives. Both Russia and Ukraine have repeatedly agreed to a humanitarian corridor to help people be evacuated from Mariupol. But for some reason, this doesn't seem to happen on ground. The level of distrust is so much. The International Committee of the Red Cross, they are trying once again to have a humanitarian corridor, and this serves two purposes. Those who are trapped inside can come out, and food, water, medicines, emergency supplies, they can be taken into the city for those who continue to remain. So is the humanitarian corridor working on ground? Let's get you this report. From Kyiv, Irpin and Bucha, let me now take you to Mariupol. India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan is in Mariupol, and she's bringing us a series of reports on the situation there. Now, this Donbass region is where the Russian forces want to increase their control and the Ukrainian forces want to dislodge them. Will this be the new battlefield? And what's the situation on ground right now? We bring you this special exclusive report.
We are here on a critical road that connects Donetsk to Mariupol, and if you see on both sides there are those danger signs. What do those signs really mean, and what do they say? It means that this entire area is mined. When the Ukrainian forces were leaving, withdrawing, were being pushed back, they mined the entire area to cause damage to the Russian forces. But the Russian forces come with equipments to ensure they know exactly where the mines are. So not only have they put the danger signs, they've also ensured that demining takes place on a regular basis. Now, how do they do that? There is no way of diffusing each and every mine. So they detonate, which means they blow up the mines that are there. This area has been cleared out, although we'll still not go there. But this area has been cleared out. You can see it with the kind of the fact that this entire area shows the signs of having been mined or burnt. So clear signs over here of what the Russian forces now are involved in. Not only ensuring that they continue to maintain control over this very important road, but also ensuring that the road becomes safe. With the journalist Satya Rautre, Geeta Mohan for India Today. This is Birozyevaya village, which is not so far away from where the Ukrainians have been pushed back, but the artillery fire, bombing and shelling continue. Just half an hour ago, this entire place was attacked, came under attack. This is under Russian control now, but the Ukrainians are trying their best to take control of this entire area. So the area was attacked, and the Russian artillery vehicles carrying artillery, moving artillery are also here. They're stranded. We don't know whether they'd be picked up or not, but there is a lot of destruction, massive destruction, not just here, but also on the other side of the land. If you see other vehicles, carriers that are completely destroyed. An attack that took place, both sides fighting for control of this very region. This was under Ukrainian control, now is under Russian control. With video journalist Satya Rautre, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Millions were displaced by this war in the past 40 days in Ukraine. Close to 4 million people left this country. 3 million went to Poland alone. Several others went to several other European countries. But there are close to 60 lakh people who were displaced internally, and a number of them, a fairly large number, have moved to the west, to Lviv and several other pockets. And this is where the internally displaced persons camps have come up, and they too are literally bursting at the seams. The situation is extremely tense, for the simple reason that even West is now being targeted. The western part of Ukraine is being targeted. There have been some missile strikes, and the apprehensions are that people are living here for some time before they move out to other countries. Of course, there are also a large number of people who are coming back to Ukraine to join the effort to rebuild this country. We bring you this report about the situation at the IDP, or the internally displaced persons camp. Efforts are being made to find a peaceful solution, but is that even possible given that forces are now being reorganized and perhaps the battle will now shift towards the south and the east of Ukraine? But even in and around Kiev, no one is letting their guard down. That is all that camera person Lalit Mohan Joshi and I have for you on this special broadcast from Kiev, Ukraine. Many thanks for watching. For all the latest news and updates, stay with us here on India Today.